Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at full official 7-star champion pool. We're going to be using this graphic by Enigma and we're going to be breaking down class by class what I personally think of it, what are my kind of like most wanted champions, I suppose. We're not going to be focusing on all the negative and scuffy aspects of it because apparently, well, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it, obviously, and I absolutely do not like the way Kabam is launching 7 stars or anything to do with Titan crystals, increased costs, all of it. It just seems extremely predatory. That's what it does. But at the same time, these are the champions that we're going to start working with on May the 8th is when we will be able to open these crystals. So let's go class by class and basically evaluate them. So the first class there is going to be Mystic. So America Chavez, Dragonman, Wong, Wiccan, Sasquatch, and Mangog. And this is the class also that definitely includes quite a few quote-unquote defenders as such, because obviously Mangog, Sasquatch, even like Wong is primarily defenders, I would say, probably at the moment in the game. And then we have like America Chavez, Dragon Man, that are both defensive and offensive champions. The thing that I do not like about Mystic class is that virtually all of the champions, with the exception of Dragon Man, do pretty much demand that you have them duped. I mean, like Sasquatch can still put in work and Mangog on defense even unduped, but anything to do with offensive kind of bursts, we have the Wiccan, we have Wong, we have America Chavez, all of whom you do want to get duped if you're going to use these champions seriously. Also, additional thing that I did not mention, but it is important to point out, 7-star rank 1 champions will have power level in between rank 4 and rank 5 6-stars, including combat power rate. 7-stars will have a different functionality when it comes to combat power rate. They will effectively start with it maxed out. So 7-star rank 1 combat power rate is going to be equal to 6-star rank 5 combat power rate. And then on top of it, when we're going to be talking about attack and health values, 7-star champions are going to be stronger than 6-star rank 4s, not stronger than 6-star rank 5. So they're going to alleviate some there in between. All that being said, I do kind of like Mystic class, but the big worry there is obviously that you will want majority of these champions to have duped. If you pull Wiccan the first time, you're not going to do too much with him. Similarly with Wong, especially in shorter fights, you really do want to get him awakened and some 6-stones on him. So when it comes to Mystic class, I think it's solid. It's just, again, something that will take time to benefit from offensively, especially. Virtually all of these champions can be placed on defense and can be solid defenders, I suppose, unawakened, but offensively, most of them you want to get banned. And honestly, there is none of them I want to pull kind of like initially. I wouldn't want any of those champions as my first 4 or 5, 6 stars, for instance. And therefore, I must say that I think Kabam unfortunately kind of overdid it with its requirement for the awaken ability in this class in particular. And then we can move on to Science class. Again, with Mystics, the only one that you could get away with being unawakened is kind of like Dragon Man, in my opinion. And now moving on to Science class. Science class I actually think I like the most. I do think it's also arguably the strongest one. In general, if you just evaluate the overall quality of these champions, considering that, you can get them awakened. Spidey buff, I think Spidey is quite solid ish. I don't think that he is going to be like the top of the top champions, but again, with Spidey, you do want to get the Spidey awakened, and that's kind of a problem there, because his awakened ability, yeah, gives him the defensive power, and not just that. His awakened ability now allows you to stack up your webbing more, and also increases the duration of your personal taunts, and all of that's quite important. So unawakened Spidey, I doubt that it's going to be making any massive waves, or a low sig Spidey for that matter. And similar to Spider-Gwen, you do want to get Spider-Gwen awakened. Titania, however, I do think is perfectly usable unawakened. Obviously, yes, if you do want to do better with her, awakened ability is helpful. And I do think that the rank 4 decent sig Titania would be better than a 7-star one, but at the same time, 7-star Titania unawakened, I think, will still be putting in some solid amount of work. Then we have Joe Fixit. Again, Ideally, you want high Sig, but even at Sig 20, he's workable. Unawakened, I wouldn't be running him. And the same case for Overseer. So overall, what I do kind of like in science class is that the champions that do need awakening, most of them, can function very well at low Sig, especially like Titania, Joe Fixit, and Overseer. And then we have Hulk, who is probably my most wanted champ here, because Hulk doesn't really have to be awakened. You can do anything you want with an unawakened Hulk, and that is definitely the top champion in my consideration. Well, for me personally, that I would want to pull from this entire champion pool. Now, moving on to Cosmic class, and I would arguably put out the point that Cosmic is possibly the weakest one, because the thing with Silver Surfer is, yes, he's great. I actually use my Silver Surfer a lot. People do sleep on him a ton, but you do want him at a relatively high Sig. Similar to Venom, Venom can put in work in story content and stuff like that unawakened, but awakened ability is more beneficial than people realize because you start with extra buffs already, so you have shorter ramp, and then on top of it, your buffs are more potent, which is quite important because Venom gets a ton of them. Venom the Dark is just a disgusting piece of abomination and should never be conceived in this game. That is absolutely repulsive, and I am extremely saddened to see him in this crystal. I will not comment on him further. I'm just going to pretend that he exists, but for all intents and purposes, he's the Iron Patriot of the crystal. Screw Venom the Dark, everything he stands for, everything about that guy is just creepy, uneery, boring, and awful. That's it. Now, Gamora, I actually do like that they included Gamora because I do think even Unawakened, she can potentially work as a nuke type of champion. And especially if you pull her as a 7-star, you don't need to invest any catalyst and you have like a rank 4 nuke. Will work sometimes, it won't work, but I do think she's kind of like a solid middle of the pack nukey champion. You know, that can be alright. Now we have Gore, which I'm quite surprised to see here. And I think Gore is one of the better pulls here because even Unawakened, he can function relatively well or, quite well. And after his tune-up, he does not have to be super high Sig in order for his Undermine ability. I think it's Undermine. Auto block counter to work quite well. So when you get him Awakened, that would be like a nice bonus. And you do not need to fuss too much about getting him high Sig. And then we have Terrax, which you do want Awakened and ideally relatively decent Sig. So unfortunately, Terrax, I don't think is going to be one of the better pulls here. I also think Terrax was the first 6-star ever that is going to be given out to people, to whoever wanted. I forgot the name. But yeah, to me, Terrax would be also one of the weaker pulls overall, personally. I think. That being said, I think Cosmic class is a bit lackluster, comparatively speaking. I think in Cosmic class, they definitely should have included something instead of that empty spot in between Venom and Gamora. It could have been something, didn't have to be something amazing. Could have been, I don't know, Null, or I don't know, something like Icarus would be so much better there, or maybe Cersei, or potentially even Venom Pool or something like that. Doesn't have to be amazing, but okay. So let's move on to the next class. Then we have Mutants, and Mutants are one of the strongest classes that are present here. And that is largely being carried by Bishop. Bishop does not have to be awakened for battlegrounds type of content. For story content, it's nice to have him awakened, but you can use him unawakened as well. And he is definitely quite solid option. One of the better pulls here for sure. Sunspot, even unawakened, he can work as a nuke type of champion. And, Sunspot has gained quite a lot of popularity. Sauron is still, usable here and there in the game. I do think he needs a little bit of a tune-up, but we do see him in battlegrounds as well on occasion. And in general, he's also extremely capable. Unawakened Gambit, I think, is arguably the weakest champion in the Mutant class there. He can do interesting things. Some people like him. Realistically, he's just not that good. There are much better options. Domino, I think, is a very, very solid addition in the sense that if you pull a 6-star Domino, offensively, Domino Trinity can still go and do some stuff. Defensively, you're probably not going to use her at all. If you have a medium to high Sig Domino as a 6-star, you can be much better off using that because obviously Domino is all about the Sig. And therefore, it's also a lot less scary that she's there because, she's not going to be a super, super troublesome defender. And then we have Storm Pyramid X, who is also perfectly capable champion, unawakened in my opinion, and is, maybe slightly above average, has her utilities. Some people use her, and they're offensively in battlegrounds as well, and she definitely has use. So I do think that mutants are also on the upper side there. And then we need to talk about tech class, which tech class actually quite pleasantly surprised me after we saw the full reveal. And the main reason there is because I really like Shuri's tune-up. I think Shuri is going to be quite solid champ. She doesn't really need to be awakened. And with her tune-up coming relatively soon, I think she would arguably be the best pull in tech class, or one of the better pulls in tech class for those of you or us that care about battlegrounds. And Shuri is also one of my most wanted 7-star pulls, truth to be told. And then every other champion in tech class also has a use, has a purpose. We have Rocket Raccoon, who you do want to get awakened, but he still can function as a quite a good nuke type champion. Then we have Infinity Iron Man, solid defender. His tune-up was unfortunately extremely mediocre at best, but I occasionally use my rank 3 even on defense as well, and he will be like a solid defender people can pull and just add into their deck, so I like that. Then we have Guillotine 2099, definitely, a champion that has lowered in her usage, but definitely capable. There's still a ton of utilities. I think a lot of people realize the power of Guillotine 2099 when the Eternity of Pain fights were coming out. She has a lot in her. There's heal reversal, there's tons of damage potential, there is that power control, can be defensively annoyingly-ish too. Obviously, double immunities, robot, all that, and overall a very, very solid champion. Mysterio, again, a champion, in my opinion, you do ideally want awakened and at least medium-level Sig if you are going to use him as a defender especially. But in general, kind of middle of the pack tech. And War Machine, who I think is somewhat underrated, somewhat slept on. And I quite like him there. And also because his SIG is relatively useless. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with pulling a War Machine. And, he's pretty much good to go, ready to be used fresh out of the box. So I quite like tech class. I think it's very well balanced. I'd probably put tech in the third spot overall, or maybe split third. And then we have skill class. And the skill thing that I really do not like is that every single champion does want to be awakened, at the very least, if not high sig. And I do think that it's a bit of a mess, especially considering that, two of the tech champions that are basically pure defenders or largely defenders for like battlegrounds purposes. There lies in Korg and Killmonger. Then we have Falcon, who is usable unawakened, but you do really, really want to get him awakened. He's significantly better. Then we have Mantis as well, getting a tune-up quite soon, so it's going to be interesting to see how her value changes. Hawkeye, solid champion, is just not quite solid enough, if you ask me. I know there are like huge Hawkeye fans in there, but I think he's all right. And then we have Elsa Bloodstone, again, a really good champion actually, but a champion that to be good and current in terms of her damage wants to be awakened and high sig, because those extra bursts of damage do mean and give her a ton more and makes her actually like usable and fast enough. Unawakened Elsa is just not good enough, I would say, other than to set Elsa trap. Those of you who have not ranked up your Elsa for those recoil metas at times, will benefit from it, but it's like a very niche use. So overall, I do not like skill class too much as a skill. Like, the best case scenario is to pull Falcon and dupe him early on, I'd say. So that is my kind of like opinion. I'd put science class up top, mutant and tech you can probably interchange, then probably mystic and cosmic and skill split last place placements. Ultimately, again, I do think that every single champion at least can do things. There isn't anything in the champion pool that's completely outdated. Likewise, there isn't anything in champion pool that's completely broken either. And I think that's a very solid start. Obviously, we'll see how they continue to expanding the pool. On a personal note, I will be opening 7-star crystals as soon as I can. I just don't see a very good reason why not to, because there is, I'm sure they're going to add more champions in it. At the same time, we have no idea whether that will make the overall crystal better or worse initially. I don't think there is much point in, saving 7-star shards for 2 years or something like that. Especially considering that 7-star shards acquisition at the start of it is going to be slow as it gets ever. And any shard that you save this month or next month, 7 stars, is effectively worth more right now than it ever will be in the history of this game. It's kind of like with 6 stars as well. 4 years ago, 6-star shards were way more valuable than they are right now. So some sort of long-term saving plan doesn't seem too appealing to me. And yeah, I will be opening. I think at the moment I can open 5. So I think, yeah, it's probably going to be 5 or 6 7 stars that I start off. And it is going to be kind of interesting because for the first time in a very, very long time, it is going to be quite intense. Because right now, when you have a big account, and there's like virtually no 6-star champions that you're hunting, or very, very few 6-star champions that you're hunting, you don't feel the same kind of like tension because, there's like 1% chance or like 5% chance that you're going to get what you want. In here, it's kind of like 50-50. So this is going to be quite stressful. But yeah, overall, I still stand by my idea that I think it's a very solid base starting pool. Much better than I expected. I expected every class to have like 1/3 champions to be gods, basically. Like I expected every class to have like Green Goblin and Iron Patriot in it or something like that. And that would be like 1/3 of the crystal. Swam didn't do that. Swam did all sorts of other nasty things in regards to 7 stars with the Titan crystal, with the 15k cost, and with everything else that they're doing with the 7 stars. But at the very least, the champion pool looks quite solid. That being said, let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your opinion. Which are the champions you are hoping for the most? What is your preferred best pull here? What is your jackpot champion? And I'm gonna catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the